This is the end of Russia. Erdoğan takes center stage, a game-changer no one saw coming. Ankara put Putin on notice, Asia's turning away, and Europe is arming like never before. The Kremlin stands exposed. One wrong move and everything explodes. Weapons are pouring in, new drones are roaring towards supersonic tests, and Kyiv factories are spitting out strike systems on a scale that will destroy the Kremlin. Let's talk about it. Hello, this is Ukraine Today. I'm Maria Farafonova, and here are the latest news. The president of Turkey will end Russia's war against Ukraine. This was the view expressed by the US President Donald Trump while speaking with reporters aboard Air Force One as he returned from the Middle East to Washington. He said that Russian dictator Vladimir Putin respects the president of Turkey. When reporters asked whether other leaders, in particular the president of Turkey, could help resolve the war between Russia and Ukraine, Trump replied Erdoğan can. He added that Erdoğan treats him well and that they are even friends.
You know, when NATO has problems with Erdoğan, which happens often, they call me to talk to him. And I have never failed to resolve them immediately.
Meanwhile, Erdoğan has already tried to rein in Putin. The two recently held a phone call. Erdoğan demanded that Putin stop the bloody war and switch to diplomacy. Ankara again officially stated that Turkey is ready to take on a key role in peace talks on Ukraine. During the conversation, the leaders also discussed bilateral relations and global threats, but the main point was that Erdoğan made it clear that country's patience is running out. The Turkish president also added that his country will continue to work in the interests of peace.
The president of Turkey stated that achieving a just and lasting peace in the conflict between Ukraine and Russia requires stepping up diplomatic efforts.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Also, earlier it became known that Baykar had moved to flight tests of the third prototype of the Kzyzylelma UAV, equipped with precision air-launched munitions and a new Ukrainian engine. The company's press service released footage of the trials. The reconnaissance strike drone conducted a flight carrying 250 kilograms aerial bomb fitted with an add-on guidance kit. The company claims that with the new, more powerful engine, Kzyzylelma will approach the speed of sound. Thanks to aerodynamic improvements, it will be able to perform more complex maneuvers at higher speeds. Russian media note that Turkish UAVs with Ukrainian engines underscore military cooperation between Turkey and Ukraine. Ukrainian outlets in turn point out that Ukrainian-made engines give the aircraft additional power, strengthening the partnership between the two countries. It was also mentioned that Baykar has decided to build a production plant in Ukraine, where Kzyzylelma and other drones for the Ukrainian military could be manufactured. Asia is erupting against the Kremlin. Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, China and Turkey, nations that were called partners just yesterday, are now decisively turning away from Moscow. Tokayev is moving toward confrontation, Beijing is putting distance, Ankara is dictating the terms, and Tashkent is sending a clear signal Russia's era of influence in the East is over. Allies are fleeing, the empire is cracking, and the Kremlin is trembling with fear. The most painful awakening for Putin may be just ahead. What will it look like? First details next.
The visit of last hope. That's how global media have dubbed Putin's trip to Tajikistan. After all, former allies, or more accurately, former vassals, are simply turning away from Russia.
Russia, in fact, doesn't really have any strong tools to put serious pressure on its Central Asian partners, who are supposedly its allies, whether it's in the CSTO, the Customs Union, the SCO, or anywhere else. But frankly, there aren't any real deal makers among them.
In particular, analysts from Bloomberg report that Russia's longtime allies in Central Asia and the Caucasus are building ties with China, the European Union, Turkey, and the Gulf countries, seeking to protect themselves from further aggression by Moscow. The reason for all this is the attack on Ukraine. Thus, Putin has essentially declared that he is prepared to use force to reclaim any territory that was once under Soviet influence. But such conclusions by Western media are far from unfounded. Among former allies, Azerbaijan is now clearly leading by example in its dealings with Moscow, refusing to attend Putin's parade, seeking other security guarantors, and most importantly, searching for new markets in international trade. All of this reflects Baku's current stance. Even Putin's admissions on the eve did not help. He admitted, for instance, that it was his air defense that shot down an Azerbaijani plane over Chechnya at the end of last year. It seems that even such statements can no longer save the relationship.
For the very first time in the entire history of the post-Soviet space, We are truly witnessing a country that is quite close geographically to Moscow, a significant and unprecedented development. A country that is quite loyal, a country with a similar political regime, one that did not take a different path like Ukraine, Georgia, or Saakashvili, is now acting differently from what was previously customary. That is, it publicly criticizes Russia, and not only criticizes, but backs up its criticism with corresponding actions similar to how Russia acts towards the citizens of these and other countries.
Countries in Central Asia are increasingly openly expressing their desire to live independently. For example, just a few days ago, speaking at the UN, the leader of Kyrgyzstan stated that the country will now build its international relations without regard to Moscow.
I can confidently say that today the process of forming a new Central Asia has begun. Thanks to its unity, stability, and growing regional identity, it is taking an increasingly strong position in the system of international relations as an independent actor.
The United States is also adding fuel to the fire of Russian-Asian relations. For example, Donald Trump announced his readiness to pull yet another territory, Uzbekistan, out of Russia's sphere of influence. The head of the White House announced agreements reached between representatives of major US businesses and the authorities of Uzbekistan. The companies will invest $1 billion in geological exploration and the development of critical mineral deposits in Uzbekistan. Trump also announced a major deal between Uzbekistan's Airway and the American corporation Boeing. The agreement, which involves the delivery of 22 aircraft, is valued accordingly at $8 billion.
There are numerous areas in which Uzbekistan and the United States of America can expand mutually beneficial cooperation. I assure you, I personally guarantee the success of American companies operating in Uzbekistan. We will create all the necessary conditions so that American businesses feel confident and can fully take advantage of the opportunities in our market.
Reuters journalists also published sensational news the day before. Turkey will be able to meet its gas needs, so it is reducing imports from Russia and Iran. Thus, Russia is losing its biggest client, one of the last in Europe. At the same time, Ankara plans to ensure its own supply by increasing production and boosting imports from the United States.
I think they might stretch out this process. They might partially refuse, they might substitute. Of course, Turkey, as always, in the style of its Eastern diplomacy, will buy this tail in parts or eat the elephant piece by piece.
China is also eating the elephant piece by piece. For example, China has stopped supplying Russia with high-precision equipment, something that Russian manufacturers are now openly admitting. In particular, the owner of the company, Tati Promstan, Ildar Nuriev. Meanwhile, the head of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council, Oleksiy Kovalenko, said that active negotiations are currently underway between Beijing and Washington regarding strategic rapprochement, which could ultimately have catastrophic consequences for Russia.
China is in no particular hurry to supply those very same crucial dual-use products to Russia, which Russia very much truly wants and desperately needs indeed. These are essential semiconductors, crucial components, specialized engineering equipment, and large complex machines that are primarily used for achieving complete self-sufficiency in various critical industries. These are specialized machines primarily used for the precise production of ammunition, including various components for gunpowder and powerful explosives, and a wide array of other manufactured goods, extending all the way down to essential plates and even more. For essential body armor for the military forces. So in actual fact, there are significant delays occurring everywhere across the board.
Also, China, now acting in its own interests, is putting a spoke in Putin's wheel on the way to gas alliances between Russia and Central Asia. Earlier this year, Gazprom's attempts to build domestic gas networks in these countries have been surprisingly unsuccessful. Analysts explained that this is by no means without Beijing's involvement.
China showed its lack of interest, made it clear, and somehow all these projects suddenly started to significantly stall, and certain inherent contradictions began to clearly arise within them, both for compelling economic considerations and some complex technical logistical reasons leading to considerable challenges. Either the roads aren't being built properly, or the guests aren't the right ones, or something else goes wrong, or the political will is slightly adjusted in the Central Asian countries, which started talking about the fact that it's easier for them to supply oil and gas to the skies. And that's why China doesn't need Russia's mediation or assistance, nor does it need Russian volumes to satisfy any of its shares in the Chinese gas market.
At the same time, to an ordinary observer, it might seem that there is no break in relations happening at all. The leaders of Central Asian countries periodically meet with Putin, and if you listen to Russian propaganda, it seems that cooperation is only increasing. According to analysts, the main reason for such behavior remains the issue
of migrants, individuals who have left their homes and often their countries in search of better opportunities, safety, or refuge from various hardships and challenges. Generations numbering in the millions, for example, Uzbekistan has 2 million, Kyrgyzstan 1 million, and so on. If they return to their home country, they cannot find decent jobs or earnings, which means that social discontent could arise in the country.
However, as soon as new ties with the West strengthen and gain momentum, migrants will begin to return to their homeland. After all, the nature of agreements with Western partners is not about kickbacks and percentages, but about legitimate enrichment at the state level, not just for individual officials. And the choice of whether to live in a sanctioned Russia or in your own country with prospects will no longer be an issue.
Right now, the Netherlands is arming Ukraine with tomahawks, a bold, decisive move. Amsterdam is pulling allies into line, and a flood of weapons is coming that will send chills through the enemy on the front. Our forces are being equipped like never before, and Europe's patience has snapped. It's moving to the offensive. This is sensational. Nobody expected a weapons flow on this scale, and it could change everything. First details in our report. Watch now.
Ukrainian partners in Europe continue to provide assistance to Ukraine in its war with Russia.
We see that this is a criminal act of aggression. It is absolutely essential that Russia be held accountable for its crimes. And for this, a special judicial body must be established. This criminal aggression must be stopped. The killings must be stopped as soon as possible. So it is necessary to keep putting pressure on Russia in order to be able to impose more sanctions and do everything possible so that Ukraine can fight, can defend itself against these attacks on land and from the air.
New steps in the defense partnership with Ukraine. The Netherlands will contribute 55 million euros to the World Bank to support Ukraine.
We are doing everything we can to support Ukraine. And we are doing this not only in words, but also in our actions. So we have provided 55 million to the World Bank, 55 million euros to the World Bank in order to support humanitarian efforts in reforms, recovery and reconstruction so that your country can emerge renewed. Our struggle, our fight.
The Netherlands and Ukraine will continue to cooperate within the framework of joint defense projects. The focus is on joint production of Ukrainian equipment in the Netherlands.
The Netherlands and Ukraine have agreed to work together on the production of drones that can be deployed here. And of course, we continue to provide unwavering support with military essential equipment, crucial ammunition, advanced F-16s and various other sophisticated weapon systems.
The Netherlands was one of the first countries to agree to transfer its F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine. The first planes were delivered to Ukraine in 2024. Washington is now considering transferring Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. Besides the US, these missiles are not only in the UK and Australia, but also in the Netherlands. The Kremlin got seriously tense. The propaganda outlet Izvestia even sent a letter to the Dutch diplomatic mission in Moscow, inquiring about the possibility of transferring Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine.
In a recent letter to Parliament, the government stated that considering Ukraine's persistently high needs on the one hand and the urgent security interests of Europe and the Netherlands on the other, the cabinet decided to allocate additional funding. Regardless of whether the Dutch government discloses information about the supplies being delivered, the Ministry of Defense is guided by the principle of operational security as well as the interests of third parties involved in the deliveries.
According to a Russian Telegram channel, 2 US Navy majors received approval from the State Department to purchase about 200 Tomahawk land-based missiles in various versions for the Netherlands under the Navy's Foreign Military Sales Program. The total cost of the program is estimated at between $2 and $19 billion. The transfer of the missiles to the Netherlands is in line with new rules under which Europe buys weapons from the US for Ukraine, the 2 majors remind. The question remains, when can we expect the first use? Well, for now, it has been openly stated that the Dutch Ministry of Defense has signed an agreement with the Estonian company Miltron Robotics and the battery manufacturer Tulip Tech for joint production of defense equipment. The company will supply Ukraine with more than 150 unmanned ground vehicles.
It is an honor for us to lead this project in partnership with the Netherlands and VDL. The SAMI's platform has already proven its value in combat conditions, and we believe that this contribution will significantly strengthen Ukraine's defense capabilities.
The cooperation is structural in nature and is planned for at least 10 years. New production lines are scheduled to be launched in the coming months. In addition, Miltron Robotics will provide comprehensive training for Ukrainian operators to ensure effective deployment and maintenance in the field. The new units will complement the 15 ZMI's machines that are already in operation in Ukraine and have proven their effectiveness on the battlefield since 2022.
This vehicle is capable of carrying 700 to 750 kilograms of payload. This means that it can transport not only the wounded, not only handle logistics such as delivering ammunition to the front line, for example, but also be used as a weapons platform because you can mount anything on it: machine guns, automatic cannons.
ZMIS is an unmanned transport platform designed to support the armed forces, logistics, reconnaissance, and combat support. Currently, the system is part of robotics programs and is in operation in 19 countries and 8 NATO member states.
The Netherlands is one of the most principled defenders of life, a country that truly helps our defense, our resilience, and, which is also important, our efforts to achieve justice.
The Netherlands has also allocated 300 million euros for the recovery and strengthening of Ukraine over the years 2025 to 2026. Out of this amount, 52 million euros will be allocated to energy infrastructure and water supply. Since 2022, the country has provided Ukraine with 26 billion euros, of which 13.6 billion have been directed towards military support. The Netherlands and its allies continue to support Ukraine in its fight for freedom and security.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Don't expect Russia to catch its breath anytime soon. Ukraine's defense industry is going all out. Kyiv is ramping up production of cruise missiles, bringing even more fury to the fight. Output of the Flamingo system will increase fourfold. What fiery roasting have Ukrainian forces prepared for the enemy? Don't miss the exclusive details.
A new level in scale, Ukraine is ramping up the production of cruise missiles. The developers of the Ukrainian Flamingo missile have stated that the company is producing 50 missiles per month and plans to reach a daily output of 7 missiles by the end of the year. The company claims that its proprietary wing manufacturing technology, which shortens the production cycle, is helping to scale up production. It should be noted that the Ukrainian missile can fly up to 3,000 kilometers and carry a ton of explosives. In August, the Flamingo struck Russian targets in temporarily occupied Crimea. Early in the morning, 3 missiles were launched from the Ukrainian coast. The strike hit a base of Russian border guards, which is overseen by the Federal Security Service of the aggressor country. Additionally, the manufacturers of the Flamingo have announced the development of their own ballistic missiles, the FP7 and FP9, as well as air defense systems. Thanks to private companies, Ukraine will be able to create innovations in the defense industry and effectively implement them on the battlefield.
It was precisely during the years of the full-scale invasion that Ukraine's defense sector made a revolutionary breakthrough. The production of Ukrainian ballistic missiles primarily involves, accordingly, a modernized version of the Neptune, specifically the anti-ship version of Neptune, which was upgraded to strike ground targets. At present, as a result of improved technical and tactical characteristics, developers estimate the Neptune strike range to be up to 1,000 kilometers. In addition, the Ukrainian Defense Forces are armed with the aforementioned Operational Tactical Complex APSAN, which has a strike range of up to 500 kilometers. Additionally, during the years of war, the Ukrainian Defense Forces have demonstrated a unique ability to modernize even Soviet-era weapon systems. Specifically, this refers to the S-200 surface-to-air missile system.
Another of the most important developments has been missile drones such as Polyanitsia, Peklo, Ruta, and Bars.
During the period of the large-scale invasion, Ukraine's defense industry has rapidly evolved in the production of its own strike weapons. And of course, let's not forget about strike drones. Here, according to KLG, which is an official recognition of Ukraine's achievements, Ukraine holds leading positions in the world.
The Ukrainian armed forces are successfully striking military targets in the Russian Federation with drone systems targeting oil refineries. Drone attacks have disabled up to 17% of Russia's oil refining capacity. Ukraine is also actively working on the production of interceptor drones. The Minister of Defense stated that Kyiv will soon reach the capacity to deploy at least 1,000 of these UAVs per day to defend against Russian attacks.
Ukraine currently holds a leading position in the production of interceptor drones. This is a Ukrainian know-how. To put the situation into perspective, during the latest provocation by the Russian Federation, specifically the violation of Polish airspace, in order to neutralize Geran decoy drones costing $10,000, NATO countries' air defense systems used missiles worth $1.5 million each. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian side is currently scaling up the so-called tactic of drone swarms, specifically through the use of interceptor drones.
Ukraine is also developing a new air defense system of the air-to-air class, capable of covering large areas. All this means that Ukrainian developers have demonstrated the ability to create high-precision weaponry capable of destroying important enemy military targets deep behind the front lines.
What do you think about the latest events? Share your opinion in the comments, like the video, and stay informed about the main headlines. More to come.